Have you ever wondered how ChatGPT seems to think like a human? How it can write stories, answer questions, explain concepts, and even hold conversations that feel surprisingly real? It's almost eerie, right? Like, how can a bunch of code and data sound so alive? Well, today, we're going deep inside the mind of ChatGPT, exploring the secret behind its brain. By the end of this video, you will understand how it learns, how it generates language, and what makes it eerily close to human thinking, yet completely different. So let's pull back the curtain and discover what's really going on inside ChatGPT's digital brain. First, let's start with something simple. ChatGPT is not human. It doesn't think, feel, or imagine the way we do, but it's been trained to mimic how humans use language, and it does it shockingly well. Think of ChatGPT as the world's most advanced pattern recognizer. Its entire brain is built on one concept, predicting the next word. That's it. But here's the catch: that single task, done billions of times on massive data, results in something that feels intelligent. When you type a sentence like "once upon a time," ChatGPT instantly starts calculating. What is the most likely next word? It might predict "there was," or "a." Then it does it again and again and again, hundreds of times per second, until it forms complete sentences, ideas, and stories. But how does it know which words to pick? That's where the real magic happens. ChatGPT is built on something called a neural network, specifically a transformer model. This is the architecture that revolutionized AI and language understanding. Think of it as a digital version of a brain, made up of millions, actually billions, of artificial neurons, tiny mathematical nodes that pass information back and forth. Each of these neurons doesn't think the way you do, it calculates. It takes numbers in, performs an operation, and passes numbers out. But when you connect billions of these neurons together across dozens or even hundreds of layers, they start doing something incredible. They begin to understand patterns in language. Just like your brain connects neurons to recognize faces, sounds, and emotions, ChatGPT's neural network connects mathematical neurons to recognize words, meanings, and relationships. It doesn't know what a dog is in the real world. It's never seen one. But it knows that dog often appears near words like bark, walk, pet, and tail. So when you ask it about dogs, it recalls those patterns and constructs a response that makes sense. Now here's where it gets fascinating. ChatGPT was trained on massive amounts of data. And when I say massive, I mean terabytes of text, books, websites, research papers, forums, and more. Every piece of writing it read taught it something about how humans communicate. It learned grammar, tone, logic, and context, not because it was told what's right or wrong, but because it learned by example. Kind of like how a child learns to speak by listening and copying. Except ChatGPT's teachers weren't parents or teachers, it had the entire internet as its classroom. That's why it can talk about philosophy, finance, love, or quantum physics, because somewhere in its vast training data, those topics existed. It doesn't know these things. It's learned the patterns of how people talk about them. So when you ask it, what is the meaning of life? It doesn't give you its opinion. It gives you the statistically most likely response based on everything it's ever read about that question. Now, here's a question a lot of people ask. Does ChatGPT actually understand what it is saying? And the short answer is not really. At least not in the human sense. ChatGPT doesn't have consciousness or awareness. It doesn't think about the future or remember the past beyond your chat. It doesn't have desires, beliefs, or emotions. But here's the paradox: even without understanding, it can simulate understanding. That's why it feels so real. When you say, "I'm sad," ChatGPT might respond with empathy, like, "I'm sorry to hear that. Want to talk about it?" It doesn't feel sorry. It's just learned that when someone says, "I'm sad," the appropriate human response often includes sympathy. That's what makes it powerful and a little scary. But if it doesn't understand, how does it sound so human? That's where its structure, the transformer, comes in. The transformer model allows ChatGPT to handle context in an incredibly sophisticated way. It doesn't just look at one word at a time, it looks at the entire sentence, and even the entire conversation. That's what gives it the ability to keep track of your topic, your tone, and even your personality over time. So if you are being serious, it mirrors your tone. If you are joking, it gets playful. If you're explaining something technical, it switches to formal language. That's not because it knows you. It's because it's constantly analyzing patterns in your words and predicting how best to respond to keep the conversation coherent and engaging. In a way, it's not thinking, it's reflecting. It's like holding up a mirror that shows you the smartest possible version of your own words. But let's get a little deeper. How does ChatGPT learn? It doesn't just read data and memorize it. It's trained through a process called machine learning, specifically a type called reinforcement learning from human feedback, LHF. Here's how it works. First, the base model is trained on all that internet data. Then humans step in, trainers who give feedback on the AI's responses. They say things like, "This answer is better," or "That response sounds rude." The AI learns from that feedback, gradually improving its ability to produce more helpful, accurate, and polite answers. So when you talk to ChatGPT, you're not just talking to raw AI. You're talking to a version of AI shaped by human judgment. It's like a brain that's been fine-tuned to behave more like a polite, intelligent assistant rather than a cold, robotic one. But make no mistake, ChatGPT is still just math. Billions of equations, probabilities, and patterns running at incredible speeds. When you ask a question, it is not searching the internet. It's not looking up an answer. It's generating one word by word in real time. It is like watching a thought form from pure probability. Every single word it types is chosen based on the likelihood that it fits best after the previous one. And that's what makes it feel intelligent, because in human language, context is everything. For instance, if you say, "I went to the bank," ChatGPT looks at the rest of your sentence to figure out, do you mean a riverbank or a money bank? It doesn't know, but it predicts based on context. If your next words are "to withdraw cash," it understands you mean a financial institution. That kind of reasoning, built entirely on patterns, is what makes it seem like it understands meaning. Now, let's talk about something even deeper: creativity. How does ChatGPT write poetry, compose songs, or brainstorm business ideas? After all, creativity is supposed to be a uniquely human trait, right? But creativity at its core is combining existing ideas in new ways. And that's exactly what ChatGPT excels at. It doesn't create ideas from thin air. It analyzes patterns, thousands of poems, stories, and lyrics, and learns the rules of creativity. Then, when you ask it to write something new, it rearranges those patterns in ways that sound original. So when it writes a love poem or an inspirational speech, it is remixing centuries of human creativity filtered through mathematics. And that's the secret. ChatGPT isn't a creator, it's a recreator. It mirrors human imagination at scale. But here's something you might not expect. ChatGPT also has limits. It can't access real-time data unless connected to the web. It doesn't truly know current events, emotions, or intentions. And sometimes it makes confident mistakes, something known as hallucinations. That's when it gives you a wrong answer that sounds perfectly right. This happens because it is not verifying facts. It is generating text that sounds correct. It's a reminder that while it feels human, it's still just statistics, not consciousness. So what is the real secret behind ChatGPT's brain? It's not that it's alive. It's not that it thinks. It's that it's an incredibly advanced simulation of how humans use language. It's like an echo of humanity, a mirror reflecting all our words, ideas, and knowledge back to us in the most natural way possible. A machine that doesn't understand us, but helps us understand ourselves better. And maybe that's the most fascinating part. ChatGPT doesn't replace human intelligence, it amplifies it. It gives us a glimpse of what happens when technology meets language, when silicon circuits start speaking like souls. So next time you chat with it, remember you are not just talking to a machine. You're talking to the sum of human knowledge, compressed into code, powered by probabilities, and shaped by people like you. It's not magic. It's not mind reading. It's math made beautiful. If you found this video fascinating, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what do you think? Can AI ever truly think like a human? Or will it always just be an incredibly convincing illusion?